Friday, everyone. As we note that Seth is wearing a hat. First of all, Seth and Sean Sports, but we are noting that Seth is wearing a hat.
Do you really have to note that I'm wearing a hat?
Do you really have to note that I'm wearing a hat?
Well, I'm bringing that into why that I am noting that you're wearing a hat. Because we just saw the intro with the full head of hair that was completely black and completely dark. And now, how many years later? Happy anniversary. How many years later are we?
10 years. Currently it's 10 years.
10 years. And the photo on LinkedIn shows it, that 10 years later, this is what marriage and kids does to you. But you get to sit outside on a beautiful day. So happy Friday, my friend.
Thank you, buddy. Happy Friday.
You?
Dude, we got a Game 7.
The best two... Look, Richard Jefferson said it on the broadcast last night. I completely agree. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. The best two words in sports are Game 7. And that's where it may not have the same handshakes as the NHL does. It may not have the same allure as a Saturday night baseball game for Game 7 or in any other sport. But Game 7 is amazing. And I definitely did not believe we were going to be here at any point.
I'll tell you. I think I texted you.
I'll tell you.
The game.
I think I'm
having such echo problems here. You don't hear it?
I'm having such echo problems here.
You don't hear it? It's
I'm
massive.
not hearing an echo, buddy. Not at all.
Okay. So
You don't hear it?
I
It's
texted
massive
you
on
halfway
mine.
through
Nope.
last night's game, just shake it.
Okay.
Just
So I texted you.
they
halfway
look
through last
Oklahoma
night.
City looked like a team that was scared to win.
Oklahoma City looked like a team that
And
was scared to win.
Indiana,
And
they just look
Indiana,
Halliburton looked healthy.
just look-
McConnell, who I was worried was going to play
Albert
too
was
much,
healthy. McConnell, who I
brilliant.
was worried was going to play too much, was brilliant.
I like them tomorrow on Sunday.
I like them
Do.
tomorrow on Sunday.
Well, let me read these off. Let me read these numbers off. So looking at the box score, let me read these numbers off. Chet Holmgren, minus 11. Jalen Williams, the Scottie Pippen after Game 5, right? He was Scottie Pippen. He scored 40. The minus 40. 40, which is the highest negative point differential since they started tracking in the NBA Finals history. Now, that tracking's only been about 20 years, but minus 40. Hartenstein, minus 12. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, minus 17. Lucic Dort, who's supposed to be their top defensive player, minus 28. Their second best defensive player is Alex Caruso, minus 33. They had nothing going yesterday. Nothing. And, yeah, Shai finishes with 21. And Jalen finishes with 16. And you and I have both spoken about how Chet runs is how this team runs. 4 points. 4. From your number 3 guy, who goes 2 for 9. And a minus 11. And we could switch it up, and I think I told you this earlier on this week, that Halliburton is a really nice player to watch. And sometimes he's a really ugly player to watch, right? Sometimes it goes up and down, right? He's very much like a stock market ticker, which goes up and down. Andrew Nembhard is, and Nembhard and Nesmith are, and I can't tell them apart half the time, are very good complementary players. Miles Turner at 31 is the graybeard of this team, which is insane. And then you have the guy that I find to be one of the most enjoyable players to watch in basketball, and that's Pascal Siakam. And I think I have developed much more of an appreciation for him in this finals than I had even against the Knicks. I didn't appreciate him enough.
Well, think about what his team has been. where he's been the last 6 years. He wins a title in Toronto, but he doesn't have. He's not Kawhi Leonard.
Nope.
And he doesn't have the longevity and the love from the Toronto populace that Kyle Lowry had.
Correct.
He may have been the number 2 at that point, but he was.
Well, he doesn't have Kyle Lowry's personality, Seth. I mean, he's just. That's simple. Okay.
Now he comes over to. It's not like when he gets traded, he goes to a big market.
Nope.
He goes to a middling, mid-tier team that realistically hadn't been relevant in 5 or 6 years before that. Except, with the Paul George exception, they really hadn't been relevant for 10, 12 years. I think they had 1 or 2 nice runs with George. But they're not. It's not a big media base. It's just a team that plays ball. There's no. It's not New York. It's not LA. They don't have an owner like a Mark Cuban. They're just there. And over the last year and a half, and even last year, I kind of agree. I don't think I recognized how good he was. But you watch him now, he is beautiful to watch on the court. And he is to me, he is the MVP of that team if they win the title. Yeah, this isn't. I'm going to try to call it.
Seth, I think to your point.
Yeah, this isn't. I'm going to try to call it.
All right. So I think the Seth's point he's trying to say, more importantly, is that this team, rightfully or wrongfully, in 2020, 2021, 2022, they were 25-57. Let's understand that. From 25-57, this wasn't 10 years ago. This is 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 21-22, they were 25-57. 22-23, they were 35-47. With a negative point differential. They continually had negative point differentials until this year, where they go 50-32. Their top win shares were Halliburton, and then Sabonis. Remember, Sabonis was traded for Halliburton. Paul George, the last time Paul George had a good season for these guys was 2015 to 2016, Seth. It was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So Siakam comes on, and at the time, remember, that trade was for 3 first-round picks, none of which amounted to anything. That's why when we start talking later about Desmond Bane and 5 first-round picks or 4 first-round picks, we can talk in a vacuum about each individual one. But that's exactly what they are. They're picks. They're lottery selections. They're, hey, this guy may work out. This guy may not work out, right? And that's what picks are all about. Siakam last night goes 6 for 14, 13 boards, a plus 13. But more importantly, the thing that Oklahoma City has not figured out, which the Knicks couldn't figure out either, is who do you put on him? Because nobody has his athletic ability and his size. There are very few players in the NBA.
I think that's exemplified by the last 2 plays in the first half. Where on the breakaway, he dunks over 2 players.
Yeah.
And then on the last shot of the half, he does a turnaround. I think it was over Caruso, which was an impossible toss. And you look at Oklahoma City, they're a team, all credit to them, built on defense. Caruso, Williams, Holmgren. This is a really, really good defensive team. They have no
They
answer
have
for
no
him.
answer for him.
But neither has anybody else. Let's
No.
right.
And then
Let's throw that out there. And
what's confusing is the Knicks brought in Mikal Bridges. They brought in OG. They have Josh Hart. They are supposed to have the wing players who can guard him. They couldn't do it. They guarded Tatum. They guarded Brown.
hold on. But I get. I get it. I do. Okay, I get it. And maybe OG probably would have been the best player to guard him. Bridges is just too small. Siakam is a bigger player. Okay, I'm thinking about guys in their prime that are like Siakam. And the two guys that come to mind are actually guys that he either played with or played at. Paul George is probably the best combination for him. And then Kawhi Leonard, who you just mentioned. And those guys are first-team NBA players. Except they're much louder, right? Siakam does things in a lunch pail type deal.
Well,
right?
let's be honest. Kawhi's not loud.
Well,
Kawhi's game is loud. Kawhi is played.
Well, Kawhi's loud by being quiet. Let's move it that way. Did you freeze? No, you didn't freeze.
Kawhi goes to San Antonio, starts in San Antonio, and is on a team that is a championship contender every year he's there.
Yep.
Goes to Toronto, wins the title as a number one option. Now, the difference is in Indiana, there really isn't a number one option, which is why they are so confusing to guard. Miles Turner hasn't done a thing offensively in 6 games. Not one thing. But you have 6 guys, and you've mentioned them: Halliburton, I'll say Turner, Siakam, Naismith, Nembhard, McConnell, your boy Obi, even Matherton. Any of these guys can lead the team in scoring, which makes it extremely hard to defend, but also there is no definitive number one.
That's true. Well, look, Obi and his pink shoes definitely came to play last night and have been playing all season. Okay? Obi Toppin, okay, I'm going to give a little credit to Obi Toppin here. And I know this is hard.
does that hurt? Does that hurt?
This is very difficult for me to do. Okay? And part of the reason I'm wearing this Red Sox shirt, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but there is a purpose to it. Is giving credit where credit is due. And first of all, he's got the best sneakers I've seen in the playoffs. Those pink ones are awesome. But that's besides the point. He went to a team that is perfect for him. There are not many he can't play on a he is not a half-court player. He's not. Nope. And he was drafted by a half-court team, which was the Knicks. So, okay. He found a team, no pun intended, that has pace. And he has derived his ability and shown what he can do using that pace and using that type of style of offense. And more power to him that he stayed there last year and realized that, right?
Yes.
He signed a deal that said, this is going to... By the way, that shirt is amazing. He found a place where he can find a home. Now, you just told me...
His game doesn't have long-term feel. He will not age well.
No, because he's built on athleticism. Yeah, 100%. I mean, a good comp for him... Now I can hear the echo, by the way. A good comp for him.
I have to figure out how to call in. This is 3 weeks in a row.
Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm thinking of a good comp for him. Derek McKee?
No.
Josh
Smith.
Oh, there you go. Clint Capella? I mean, he's a rim running undersized center, right? That's what he does.
Toppin is a 4. I don't think Toppin's a center.
Okay, so Josh Smith, yeah, I like the Josh Smith comp. And he didn't age well either.
No. I'm trying to think of a really, really athletic. That once the athleticism, I mean, this is the position-wise, it doesn't.
How about
work at
Amari
all.
Stoudemire?
Amari developed a really nice game, but he was built on athleticism to start, and he played on a team that was actually very similar
Yes.
because he played on the Steve Nash Suns.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like this is
Yeah.
that's a good comp for him. Is that type of guy that is going that way. I mean, you could originally have made the case that a good comp would have been Kevin Garnett, but Garnett developed a better game over the course of time. But when he started with Marbury, that was his game. His game was run. Let's just keep. He was also 18 years old, so why not? But
And he moved into a top 30 player all time. So obviously, the game transitioned.
well, he transitioned into one of the top 5 defensive players of all time, and that's where he really made his bones. Right, is playing defense on those Celtic teams. I don't think Obi Toppin has that in his game.
No.
But then again, truth be told, I didn't think he had this in his game. So more power to him. But I
So
want to
if we have a Kobe to Shaq against Portland in Game 7 of the 2000 Finals, alley-oop from Halliburton to Toppin, are you going to jump off your roof?
No, I won't. I will tell you, if the Pacers win this game, it will be fantastic for the NBA. It will be. Because it is a David versus Goliath scenario. I understand that you can't underestimate the Pacers anymore, given that A, they're in a Game 7, and B, they've been doing this for the last 4 weeks. But, Seth, they're still going against a team that won 68 games. That's undeniable. And it would tell literally if you could find me a analyst, good, bad, indifferent, somebody that you like, somebody that you don't like, that picked the Pacers to win this series, I would be beyond shocked. I don't know anybody.
Give me 30 seconds. Take me off for 30 seconds.
All right. I don't think there is anybody in. I mean, I could do a Google search, but I don't think that there is anybody that picked the Pacers to win this series. And if nobody picked the Pacers to win the series and the Pacers win the series, that would be tremendous for basketball. I really, truly believe that. And kudos to Stephen A. Smith's daughter, who I don't remember her name, but she was on the broadcast last night and went against her father and picked the Pacers to win. So good for her. Look, Game 7, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. I am going to miss, and I haven't said this in a really long time, I am going to miss having the NBA every other night or every third night. Because it has been for the last 3 weeks, and granted, some of that's my Knicks, I get it. It has been must-see TV for me, 100%. I would not have. There were very few reasons I would have missed last night's game, and I watched the entire game. Seth, how many NBA games have you watched the entire game this year that were not
a bunch in the playoffs?
Okay.
Probably not one in the regular season.
And you watched the whole game last night, right?
Yes.
You watched the whole game where the fourth quarter could not have mattered even if they had a 5-point shot.
Well, this is what 10 years of marriage is, Sean. It was either I watch this or I go into my bedroom and watch a show on Hulu called The Buccaneers.
And it has nothing to
And
do
it's not
with
about
football.
Tampa.
Does it have anything to do with football? There's no Tom Brady in it?
There may have been for Carly. I have no idea. The choices were not that difficult.
Okay, fair enough.
Now, I will miss the first half probably of Game 7.
Okay.
because we have tickets to the show.
That on Sunday night?
Tina Fey, Amy Poehler is Sunday night.
Oh, I thought that was Saturday night. Okay.
So, but it starts at 6. By the way, the one thing I got to wonder about the NBA, you have 20 million kids who want to watch this.
Yep. Why are we starting
It
at
is
8
a
o'clock?
game 7
Why are we starting
on
at 8
a
o'clock?
weekend.
Yep.
Start the game at 6.
Yep. But this is
What are you
not just the NBA, right? This is every sports league.
I understand that. But not every sport has a game 7 on a weekend
True.
where this could have been adjusted.
I don't know if it could or couldn't. I don't.
Why not? Are they using it for the ice capades?
No, I'm not saying the arena couldn't have been.
Hey, I'm not televising this. If it's for ABC, excuse me, I'm not televising this because it goes against the Heritage Classic. Give me a bleeping break. This could have been dealt with. Weekend games should not start at 8:30 at night when you're talking the conference finals and the finals.
Well, it does start at 8. It doesn't start at 8:30. It's an 8 o'clock game.
The game will be over at 10:30. Now, I want to ask an over/under. Sean, you know my son really well.
Yep.
How many times is he going to sneak away into our room to watch part of this?
I have a better question. And I'll answer that one in a second. Your son does not have school on Monday, right?
Yes, he does.
He does?
Last day of school is Tuesday.
Ah,
If he did not, I would let him watch the game.
that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, what's the harm?
The wrath of Carly. I mean, come on. But no, I would have.
Yeah, but you're gonna be gone. You're gonna be at something. He's at grandma and grandpa's. There's no harm here.
I will tell Grandma. I don't know if they're coming over. Or they're going, or we're going there.
Send them.
If he's
send
there,
Send them. Send them there.
I will tell him. I will tell my parents. Let him watch. So
We know Carly's not watching this, so there's no video evidence of you now going against the bedtime protocol of the.
well, she's pulling in right now, so she may ask. I'll tell her. I don't care. He's got 2 days left of school. I really couldn't care less if he's.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, come on. I mean,
Maybe I will.
were you allowed to stay up past X amount if it was an important game?
No, I don't think so. Not at age 8.
Okay.
Maybe at 10 or 11, I would get the extra hour.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think at age 8 I was staying up till 10:30 to watch basketball. If Carly walks past here, we'll bring her in and we'll ask.
Yeah. So I will tell you, we did not have cable. Okay. We never had cable. We had cable for 48 hours. that's how long we had. We had cable installed on Friday and pulled out on Monday. No joke. So
Is this so you could get like the adult scramble vision for like 30 seconds?
no,
Or is that
we
only-
watched so much TV that 48 hours that my mom pulled the cable box out and said, "This is garbage."
What a loving woman she is.
Yeah, so she pulled it out. So the point is, we never had cable. So the Islanders were on Channel 9 every once in a while. WWOR.
WR.
Mets were on Channel 9 every once in a while on WWOR. The Yankees, I didn't watch the Yankees. I didn't care. Basketball, the
Yankees
NBA
were
was
on
not a
WPIF.
big. Yeah, the basketball was a big deal only because I made it a big deal. But it wasn't ever on 2-4. It wasn't on. It wasn't on the Knicks were on MSG. They were always on some cable system. They were never on broadcast TV. So I never watched any of these games on TV. I was a radio guy. I listened to every single game on the radio. Everyone. And it didn't matter whether I was allowed to stay up for the game. It's on the radio. There's no way you're telling me not to stay up for the game. The problem is I didn't stay in my bed. I would pace back and forth across my room all night listening to the Islanders or listening to the Knicks. So it was never a question of, hey, it's a big game. can he stay up? The one time I remember, only one game, I stayed up for the 1986 Game 6 World Series for the Mets. I was awake.
Jeez.
I was in my basement, and the entire family was sleeping, and it rolled through Buckner's legs, and I woke up the entire damn house. I ran upstairs screaming. And the truth is, I don't think my mom knew I was downstairs to begin with, watching that game. I think that was okay, I'm going to sneak downstairs and watch. I have to think my dad didn't care because it was his TV downstairs that I was watching to begin with. So overall, no, I did not get the hall pass to watch sports. But then
No,
again,
I was not a radio guy, although I would listen to Steve Summers schmoozing.
Oh, the schmoozer, Captain Midnight, baby.
Captain Midnight. There was only one game there's one late night game I remember listening to on the radio.
Okay.
And you in a million years never guess it.
The Islanders Rangers where Kenny Morrow scores a goal?
No, not that far back. 1988, Game 7. Actually, first it was the Devils having to win a game to make the playoffs for the first time in their franchise history.
I definitely was not listening to that game. Okay.
They pulled the goalie with 3 minutes to go, and I think it was in overtime. And I believe it was John McClain scored the goal to put him into the playoffs.
Okay.
And then they ended up going to the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston.
Right.
And I listened to that. If it was 88, it was Sean Burke was the goalie.
Okay.
The only other thing I can ever remember listening to on the radio was David Volek in double overtime
1992
against the Penguins in Game 7 of the Islanders in 93, 94.
92.
Bet you didn't see that one coming.
I don't think that was Game 7, my friend. I think that was Game 6.
Absolutely was. They won it.
They won it, but I think it was Game 6.
Okay.
But
So who do you like Sunday night?
I'm going to take the 68 win team. I just am. I absolutely. Oh, you're right. It was Game 7. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I was.
I just got you on Islanders trivia.
I get it. By the way, before we move on, and we will move on in a second, can we give props to our man TJ McConnell? Can we give some props because? So he now holds the record for most points, assists, rebounds, and steals by a bench player in NBA Finals history. 68
Seriously?
points. 68 points, 19 rebounds, 28 assists, and 14 steals. He's got 14 steals, Seth, in 6 games.
Wait a minute. There is no way 68 points is the most points by a bench player in NBA history.
No, finals.
There's no way. In finals history. There's no way.
Okay.
I will research that and beat that. That's an average of 10 points a game over a 7-game series. Don't buy it.
Okay. I'm doing my own history right now. TJ McConnell. Oh, sorry. He's the first player to have that. He's not. So he's the first player to have 60-plus points, 25-plus assists, 15-plus rebounds. Obi Toppin is
That's
the
very
second
different.
bench player to have 70-plus points, 30-plus rebounds, and 12 three-pointers.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you know who has the record for the most points off the bench in an NBA Finals?
In one game, it's Sam Cassell.
In one series.
In the
You're looking it up.
finals?
There's
I
not.
don't
There's
know.
no. There's no. Downtown Freddie Brown. In the Seattle in 1979.
Look, if Cassell had 31 in a game, you got to think he probably had more than 60 in the series. But then again, it was Houston and in Orlando. That series may not have gone more than 5 games. I think it was a 5-game series, right?
Houston swept them.
Right. So he may not have had 60 points.
No, you didn't. Freddie Brown had 134 points off the bench.
Freddie Brown,
In
the Pacer?
No, he was in the Sonics. Downtown Freddie Brown.
Oh. Who was the Pacer that was named? I thought there was a Pacer named Freddie Brown who played in the NBA. Anyway, I thought there was a Pacer named Freddie Brown, but maybe not. You're right. Pacer Freddie Brown, like we refers to downtown Freddie Brown. Anyway, but props to our man TJ McConnell. And I think it was Iman Shumpert on the Hoop Collective, and I'm not 100% sure. He goes, "That white man got hops." I'm like, he played out of his mind last night.
Apparently, Halliburton referred to him as the Great White Hope last night.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, he was the Great White Hope. And I gotta tell you, I listened to that while it was broadcast, and I'm like, oh my Lord, did he really just say that? He's like,
Yeah.
We call him the Great White Hope. I'm like, okay. So props to the oldest player on the Pacers, except for James Johnson, who, by the way, props to the oldest player on the Pacers, James Johnson, for not only playing last night, but getting thrown
kicked out.
He got thrown out of the game. That was amazing. I loved it. I loved every minute of that. Okay. So I will take the Thunder. And the problem
I will
is
take Indiana.
None of these games have been close. Like, none of these games legitimate. I mean, you have a close game, but at the end of the day, at the end of the game, except for game 1, none of them have been.
Game 5 was pretty close.
Did you ever think
4 or
that it was
5?
4 was where was the Pacer win?
No, 4 is where Oklahoma City came back. That's when
Right.
I texted
Sorry.
you.
4 was where Oklahoma City won.
1 was close and 4 was close. 5 was pretty close, if I remember.
I just want Game 7 to be close. Like, I just want this to be a game. I don't want it to be like last night for either team. I want it to be close. Let's move a little bit south and talk about back-to-back cups in South Florida.
When did Florida become the bastion of hockey?
In the
You have
last
what,
3
4
years.
titles in 5 years?
Well, between Tampa Bay
Florida and Tampa.
when they realized that there's no state income tax.
There's no state income tax.
Well, if you look at it, between Las Vegas, Florida, right? They've won 5 out of, I think, the last 7 or 8 cups. So, I mean, you're able to do that. They've been able to get good players. They've sacrificed tomorrow for today in trading picks and supplementing the right way. Look, kudos to Brad Marchand, who comes and the little engine that could. I mean, that's the best way to describe him. He just keeps going. And Sam Bennett with 4 goals. Way to kick off your free agency run. Because, I mean, he'll be back in Florida in all likelihood, but wow. And good. I mean, look, the ratings for the series weren't great. They certainly weren't great in Florida, but Florida wins 2 cups in a row.
They were
And
never great in
McDavid
New
won
Jersey
six-
when New Jersey won 3 titles
Right.
in 10 years.
And you and I have had this discussion, and I had this discussion with somebody, a pretty big hockey fan. His name is Mike Snyder, a couple of days ago. It is my belief, and I believe it is yours as well, that you cannot be a top 5 player in that sport's history without winning a championship. May not be multiple championships, but it has to be at least one, a singular
I
championship.
think in any sport.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In any
Yeah.
sport, you have to win at least one. Now, would it be helpful to win 2 or 3? Sure. But at least one, right? Which is why Ted Williams can't be considered a top 5 to top 10 player of all time. Just can't. Okay? And his remark was, this is a team sport. And if
Ted Williams couldn't pitch, right? Ted Williams couldn't play first base. Ted Williams couldn't do a number of these things. I'd like to say tell that to Barry Bonds, who basically got his team to a World Series without any help, at least once. Connor McDavid has been in the Stanley Cup Finals the last 2 years in Edmonton. He has had, this year, he certainly did not fulfill the expectations, having only one goal in 6 games, going -7, which means, much like basketball, he was on the ice for 7 goals of Florida's.
That he let up, then he scored. Yeah.
And you question, look, I want Connor McDavid to spend his entire career in Edmonton. I do. I want Leon Draisaitl to do the same. He may have lost his best 2 shots of winning a cup. Because he makes $12 million right now. Draisaitl was making 7 until his extension kicks in next year, and it goes to 14. McDavid's starting at 12. You know he's going to be at 14 or 15. This team is going to be very expensive very quickly. And while the cap does go up, and it will go up considerably, they have fallen into the trap that the Toronto Maple Leafs fell into. It's nice to score all the goals, but if you can't stop the puck, it don't matter. And the question is whether Connor McDavid can win a cup in Edmonton with 2 guys making $14 million, because it's never happened before.
Well, let me ask a question back. You have these 2 goalies who are below average, correct? I'm not an expert on...
They're average to below average, yep.
You probably do have the ability, just as the Devils traded for Markstrom last year. There's always these somewhat above average goalies that are slightly overpriced that have a year or 2 left on the contract. We've seen this all the time. Is there someone in that range coming in where you think there may be availability there? Because
so
they don't. If you're
going
to have
trade,
the top,
right?
Yeah, I'm talking about a trade.
Well, part of it is talking about a trade. Well, part of it when you talk about trade, Seth, is you have in a cap era, the same way you do in basketball, is you're trading contract for contract, right? Unless you have really, really young talent that doesn't earn money yet. Ergo, the New Jersey Devils, who had really, really young talent that wasn't earning money yet, and then signed a Jack Hughes for an under market value at $8 million, and had rookies like his brother who were playing on the back line.
Correct.
You are correct, and that could have happened 2 years ago, before the Draisaitl $14 million, before the Connor McDavid $14 million. If you look at Toronto and what they have done, right? Toronto had Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, and William Nylander, right? Each earning an average of $11.5 million. $44 million out of a $100 million cap, just roughly amounts. 40% of your cap is going to 4 players. 4. You can't, when you look at what Edmonton is doing, they have Draisaitl, who has 14. You have McDavid, who will make 14. You have Evan Bouchard, a defenseman that will probably make 10. And then you have Darnell Nurse, who is making 9.5 over the next 5 years. And the only claim to fame for me is that he's Donovan McNabb's nephew. So that gets him a pass. But he is. But he's not worth $9.5 million except for the fact that he's Donovan's nephew. So in total, Seth, you're at the same 44% of your cap for 4 players.
That's what I didn't know. I didn't know if Nugent Hopkins was signed for some. I didn't know if there were other players on Edmonton signed at a tier below.
Well, Nugent is signed at, I believe, at 8 or 9, and you can make that type of trade, but then you're giving away your best assets, right? Which is offense, right? You're trading. It's not as simple.
Correct, but I get that. But if you have, and I realize hockey is a 4-line game, I get it.
Yep.
It's not the NBA where 5 players are playing at once. Literally, you have hockey, you have interchangeably 18 to 20 players are playing 20 minutes in a game.
That's right.
But if you know definitively, in Toronto, let me take a step back. Matthews is fantastic. Nylander, Mariner, Pajama Boy are a tier below. But you knew
Congratulations,
that
you've come
team
across. You have now.
I couldn't actually
now
think of
refer to
Tavares'
him as
name. I just know you
Pajama
call him Pajama Boy. But if they had had the ability to make that to trade one of those players for a middle to upper tier goalie, don't you think they would have done it? I'm asking. Do you think they would have?
Well, first of all, they would. I think 3 of them had no trade clauses, so you couldn't do that anyway. Maybe all 4 of them had no trade clauses, so you weren't doing that anyway. And secondly, yeah, I think if not a middle tier, they wouldn't have given that up. Like, that's part of the problem, is that when you're looking at these guys that I just named off, Drysdale and McDavid are probably the 2 best offensive players, maybe all in hockey. Okay, they are that good. They are that good.
They are tiers above the 4 that you mentioned. The 3 of the 4 that you mentioned.
So Darnell Nurse for $9.25 million a year for 5 more years. They would love to get off that contract. Nobody's taking it for $9 million.
What position? I get that. What position does he play? Just out of curiosity.
He's a defenseman. He's a defenseman.
So you have Bouchard.
So Bouchard
why
is
can't you trade a Hopkins, who's an $8 million guy, and is a good number 2 center?
Sure.
Is there a value there to get somebody of?
There
Because
might
you're not
be.
winning without a goal.
Right. So you're believe it or not, Hopkins is only, and this is not to correct you, it's to correct me. Hopkins is only earning $5 million through 2028. So Seth, there's value there. You are losing your core to get a goalie. And remember, this is Edmonton. This is not going to New York. So you don't want to get a guy that's on a 1-year contract because you're afraid he's not going to re-sign next year, right?
Understood.
So you're looking for a younger goalie that has not only value, but is at $5 to $6 million. Those are not the easiest, not value, that has term on their contract.
Understood.
And
but you don't need a young. You're not looking for a 25-year-old superstar goalie. You don't need You need someone that can go 2 or 3 years.
My point is
that can be a 35.
Right, but you're trading a Nugent Hopkins who's 27 years. He's 20. He's 30 years old right now. I think 30 or 31. And you're talking about getting a guy back that's 37, 38. If that's where you're looking, or 35, 36, like a John Gibbons from Anaheim. That's the trade-off, right? And again, Nugent Hopkins has been there since he was 18 years old, so you're trading some of that as well. I'm not saying it's a bad trade. I'm not saying that's something that if you're looking into, you don't do. But remember, there are other factors that play into here. I bet you John Gibbons has a no-trade clause in his contract. He ain't going to Edmonton. Goalies are the players that get those types of clauses because they don't want to go anywhere. And nobody, if you look at the Athletic, every year the Athletic does their poll, and you know where the most no trade clauses are found? In Western Canada, Edmonton. Not that they're found; those are the ones on the list. Western Canada,
correct.
Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton. It is cold, it is dreary, and it is taxed. And they don't like it. All right. We got 15 minutes left. We'll get into the Oilers mix next week. And we'll talk a little bit more about Desmond Bane next week as we have our draft preview next week. It has finally come to fruition. We are here. 25 guys that we've never heard of. We will be making selections next week. But I'm wearing this Red Sox shirt because there was a baseball trade made. Yeah, baby, a baseball trade. And I understand that Boston Red Sox fans are furious. They should not be. And they certainly should not be furious at this trade. You want to be furious at management for trading Mookie Betts for nothing? You go right ahead. I'm game on. If you want to be furious at them not re-signing Xavier Bogaerts, you are the biggest idiot of all time. Look at what Bogaerts is doing in San Diego. It worked out.
He's the Javier Baez of the National League.
And Javier Baez has actually reclamated
He's having a good year this year.
He's played pretty well when he moved to center field. Rafael Devers, now I understand this is a little bit of a false comparison because Rafael Devers signed his contract, his 9-year contract, 4 years before the guy that I'm going to equate him to. But he is Miggy Cabrera. He is absolutely Miggy Cabrera. He started at third. He moved to DH. He's now going to go to first next year. And he is going to be, and granted, his contract ends at 36. Miggy's ended at 41. But they are very similar players. And Rafael Devers is not the hitter Miggy Cabrera was at all. Miggy Cabrera was the best hitter in baseball. Rafael Devers has never been mentioned as the best hitter in baseball. I think the Red Sox saved themselves in this contract. I think they had to, in this trade, they had to give Devers money to save their players because you didn't re-sign Betts, you didn't re-sign Bogaerts. You need to give the money somewhere. But, man, $35 million, Seth. Hey, will you go play first base for my team for $35 million? Will you go DH? Now, I understand you have an ego and you may not look great doing it, but first base used to be the place where every player went to hide, right? You hid your worst fielder at first base. But, and I'm sorry, I did not see Did You Know the Number until just now. So my apologies for that. But that's where they used to play players like Gorman Thomas, that didn't, Steve Balboni. I mean, I can Ken Phelps.
Ron Kittle.
Yeah, I mean the guys that you couldn't find a place for, guess where they played? They played first base. Rafael Devers, if you can play third base, you can play first base. And if you're getting paid $35 million, you should be playing first base if that's what the team asks you to do. And there is not one bone in my body, not one, that believes that a general manager can make a promise on a 9-year contract that third base is going to be yours for 9 years. None. Zero. Zilch. I think the Red Sox made out pretty well in this deal.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess the question I have is, as a Red Sox fan, and I am not one, you have, over the last 5 years, gotten rid of Mookie Betts for a sale. I mean, David Price has been gone a little bit longer. Now Devers. But you let Bogaerts leave. You brought in Trevor Story, who hasn't done much either. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like you particularly want to be competitive. I mean, it's like watching the Giants, where every year you're kind of rebuilding and rebuilding. This is what, the 4th or 5th year in a row where they're really not going to be competitive?
Yep, that's about right.
Now, I know they have Roman Anthony. I know they have a couple other big-time prospects. And my gut is Breslow wanted to get rid of him because he just wanted him out of the dugout because it was a negative at this point.
Yep.
But as a fan of a team where you constantly see a rebuild, where you've had such, you've won, 3 World Series in the 10 years prior to that? There's also got to be some frustration that we're kind of re-kicking this again.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with the consternation of the rebuild. I don't. And aside from the Yankees, however, every team has done this. Every team. Every team has sucked and then gotten better. Every team they may not even hit the top of the mountain, but they've sucked and then gotten better. The Mets have done this. The Dodgers did this. You can say the Yankees did this, although I don't really recall when. The Baltimore did this, right? They're doing it right now. I mean, they are sucking. To make a feasible team, to make a long-term team, and look, we're going to hit on the Lakers being sold in 2 seconds. You need continuity, and you need a farm system, right? You need actual progression in your players. You can't just keep signing free agents. That doesn't development is the word. Development is the word that I need. And that goes from the highest paying clubs to the lowest paying clubs. You need a farm system. You need development. As much as you're going to get LeBron James at $65 million, if you don't have 4 bench players that can surround him with shooting, he's not worth it. He's not. And so I think what the Mets learned, Stevie Cohen learned, what the Dodgers learned is, yeah, let's go get the farm system. Let's go get the system in place, and then we'll figure out how we supplement them with higher priced players. And Rafael Devers was on the wrong timeline. He's just on the wrong timeline. And look, the Giants.
Do you think Boston should have gone after Bregman, knowing that this should have been communicated a lot better?
Oh, 100%. Well, let's understand. Alex Bregman has an out clause at the end of this year in his contract. Okay? He may or may not take it. But Alex Bregman is a defensive player. He can play defense. Rafael Devers cannot. Rafael Devers was always going to be moved off of third base at some point in his 9-year contract. There's no way this guy was going to. No. I think I might play third base better than Rafael Devers. But the fact is, he's like Miggy. He would have moved off third. He's not structured that way. I think it damn well could have been communicated better. 100%. I think that's where you lost, right? You lost in the fact that you didn't communicate to your star player, hey, we want you to move until spring training. Do I fault the fact that they went after Alex Bregman? No. But do I fault for not having communication? Sure. I'll go with that. I think that's a good foul. Look, he's going to go to San Francisco, and he has already said, I'll play wherever they want. Well, shocking, because Matt Chapman's only the second best fielding third baseman in baseball, and he's at third for the next 6 years. And Willie Adames is the shortstop, and he's signed for the next 6 years too.
7 years at $180 million. Yeah.
I mean, but good luck to San Francisco now. He is their problem, and I just don't think this is as bad a trade for the Red Sox as people are making it out to be. I think you're right.
I don't think people have been killing Breslow on this deal.
Oh, I do. That's all you got for your star player? Yeah.
Oh, no. I was under the impression they were getting out of a $35 million a year contract. I understood.
Well, but I don't think people realize that's what it was. I don't think people realize that's what you're getting out of that contract.
No. That's exactly what this was. If you weren't going to sign Mookie Betts, who is the best player the Red Sox have had since probably Ted Williams,
Yep.
to a contract of that, there was no way Devers was going to last forever on this deal.
By the way, it is possible, that Mookie Betts, over the course of his career, will have a better career than Ted Williams. Let that sink for a little bit. We can talk more about that. We can talk about more about that in the upcoming weeks, but let that sink in a second. It is possible.
Williams had no protection other than Vern Stevens and Bobby Dorr. I am not putting, as great as Mookie Betts is, I'm not putting him as a top 5 outfielder of all time.
Okay.
Would you take Mookie Betts over Mike Trout?
No.
Then your argument doesn't
Wait,
make any sense.
am I taking the first 9 years of Mike Trout, or am I taking now Mike Trout? Because I take him 100%.
No, the career versus career.
I think it's closer than you think it is. I do. Well, we'll touch upon
I mean,
that.
look, Mookie is at this point an upper pantheon Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Trout before his body gave out on him. Now again, the issue was an all-time top 20 all-time players. The problem you have is his body held up, and he's never played in a meaningful game.
That's right. Well, and
that's the issue.
As we just said, that's a problem, right?
Well, that's why you can't have
We
him
just
as a
talked
top
about
5 to
that.
10 player of all. That's why you can't have him as a top 5 to 10 player of all time.
Okay, but and again, we can talk about this in the doldrums of July. But if you put Mookie Betts, who has won, right? He has. He's won both for the Red Sox and for the Dodgers. Like we'll talk about this a little bit now, and we'll get to the Lakers next week, because that's not going to change one way or another. If you look at what we have between Betts and Trout, I mean, Betts has won twice, right? In 2 different places.
At least.
2 different leagues.
At least.
All right, so this is what I was looking for. And granted, I don't believe WAR is the all-encompassing number, okay? Mike Trout has an 86.3 WAR. Mookie Betts has a 73 WAR. Trout has played 110 more games, which is saying something because Trout didn't play for like 4 straight seasons. So Trout's like
Correct.
33 and Mookie's like 30, if I'm just doing math. So he's got 3 years to get up on Trout. Trout is a much better hitter. Trout has an OPS plus of 171. Mookie has an OPS plus of 137. I get it. But when you put into account that Mookie has moved from center to second to short and played right field, all at Gold Glove levels, and won 2 championships.
He's sensational. Look, he's sensational.
Mookie Betts has 1,683 hits. Mike Trout has 1,689. Mookie Betts could get to 3,000. Mookie Betts may have more hits than Ted Williams when this is all said and done.
A discussion for a later point.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, the problem with comparing historical versus today. Because we, and Seth and I are of the same ilk, we build up the past a little bit more sometimes than it should be, or could be, because it's hard to compare eras. It just is. We never saw Ted Williams play. I get it. He's been mythical at 342 our entire lifetime. He's never gone up. He's never gone down. His batting average was 342. He's hit 521 home runs in our lifetime. He hasn't hit one. It's never going to go up. It's never going to go down. We never saw the faults of Ted Williams or Babe Ruth or Willie Mays. It's really hard to look back and say a player today is as good as that guy, because that guy is a guy that never has had a down day in our lifetimes. That's the way I look at it. Okay, we are at time. So next week we will have our NBA preview, NBA draft preview, excuse me, where Seth will beat the crap out of me once again by guessing names that may exist in the numbers 20 through 30, because that's where he generally kicks my ass. 20 through 30. He's like, so for Seth Kamens, who's over there, happy anniversary to you and Carly. 10 years, monumental. And I really hope.
And we never had a fight.
And I really hope that on Monday or next week, we can bring Jake on the show before he goes to camp. And we can talk about the Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which he got to watch start to finish. So
I hope so, too.
yeah, we'll talk later, buddy. Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good one.